Welcome back to the TMDSAS podcast. This is Enrique Hasso, the coordinator of research, advising services, and digital media at the TMDSAS office in Austin, Texas. And joining me today is a really amazing guest, and I'm so excited to finally get her on the podcast. It's Miss LeTanya Neely.
Hello.
Can you give me your title again?
I am the Director of Student Recruitment and JAMP Medical School Coordinator
at the UT Medical Branch of Galveston. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and tackling this roadmap for all of our students who are kind of planning out their trajectory and making sure that they get to the professional school that they want to go into.
Right. Well, I tell you, this plan that you all have mapped out is excellent advice. It helps students to kind of gauge where they're at in the process, and certainly in the second year, the sophomore year after or going through college, it's really a good opportunity for them to start digging their hands into what this is about, the journey, and that's what I'm really excited about to talk about today.
Yeah, sophomore year is actually surprisingly a very important year, and it's kind of a make or break point for a lot of students. So
yes,
let's just dig right in. And
right.
we kind of went through, and we have 3 different areas that we want to focus on for your sophomore year, your second year of college. The first is going to be to enhance your network, and then we want you to stay engaged. But most importantly, we're going to spend a lot of time on looking ahead and seeing what you need to be doing now as a sophomore or second year in college to be able to get through the application and onward into matriculation. So let's start off with enhancing your network.
Awesome. So definitely by this time, you should have made some connections with individuals on campus that can help guide you in this process. And, you want to look even outside of your pre-health advisor. So the first chance you get to get involved in other organizations or other opportunities on campus, you want to start building that network by engaging yourself with other people that can help you along the way. You also want to build relationships with individuals that know you well, that can speak about the things that you are doing right now. Think about your skills that you may have, working with people, working with others. That's very important. So you want to be sure that you're connecting with those individuals on that level. So that means taking opportunities that maybe you've never experienced before, and this is a wonderful time to do that because you're just getting yourself more acclimated to the campus and to the mission of the campus, and starting to look at some of the things that you're interested in and getting more involved in those things as well.
Yeah, that's very important, and I kind of want to bring it back a little bit more. If you don't know where to start, your advisor is a great resource on your campus because they're the ones that know all of the pre-health organizations and the activities that they do. And in a lot of cases, they're actually really key in connecting you with experiences outside of the classroom. Like for example, I know some advisors who have come together and kind of grouped some resources in their community so that applicants from that school can go out and say, hey, I'm with this university and I want to shadow here. And
that's awesome. I don't mean to cut you off, but that is awesome as well. And the point that I wanted to make with that too is that you may not be from that community. Mm-hmm. You're maybe a student that is from East Texas going to school in North Texas, and you don't know that community, and you have those questions. How do I reach out and have other opportunities? And so that's an excellent point.
Yeah. And then also with building up your network, when I was doing some advising of when I was finishing up my master's program, I actually had the student that came into the office, and he was a sophomore. And he was trying to figure out, who was going to write his letters. And, we came down to the solution that the best option for him was to actually walk into their professor's office during their office hours and say, hey, I'm a sophomore right now, and I'd like to ask you for a letter of evaluation in a year or two. And so to help build that connection, that network, I'd like to come in and visit with you regularly so I can update you with what I'm doing and what's going on. And that actually opened up a huge door for this student, because it was it was a professor who's very coveted for their letters of evaluation, but they've never had somebody come in and, state their intention and, want to build that relationship and that network with them.
And the key is to be genuine about that request, because you don't want to, evaluators get a lot, or even faculty, whomever, get a lot of requests for letters. And so you want to stand out with that individual. You want to be open and honest about things that are going on with you and share those things openly with them, so that they really get to know who you are and understand your passion for why you want to go into the field and pursue the profession, but also so that they can honestly evaluate you. That person needs to know the good things and the bad things. Yeah.
Definitely. Well said. So kind of moving on to our next point, we want you to stay engaged with experiences beyond the classroom. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Well, definitely, because like I said, this is the time where you've had a year or so to get yourself acclimated to the new environment, to college campus life, and there's a lot of things that can pull you away from the task that you have at hand, this journey that you're on. And so you want to stay focused on those particular things that are going to help propel you and propel you through your journey. And so that means that staying engaged in the community by volunteering. You also want to pursue any type of research opportunities. There's several of those that come up in the summertime, but some students are fortunate to find things that they can do during the year. So if that's you and you have a strong interest in research, then this is the time to start finding those opportunities and taking advantage of them. You also want to try to position yourself for leadership opportunities. And this does not mean that you have to be a leader or an officer, an elected officer or appointed officer. There are a lot of opportunities that you can showcase your leadership skills and abilities. And you want to diversify those experiences, because you want to show that you're a person that's well-rounded, that you've had different experiences, even maybe some unique experiences that will help make you stand out from the rest of the applicant pool. Well, then just the last, in terms of how you spend your time, is very valuable to an admissions committee. They're wanting to know, how did you navigate through your classes and your personal goals, your educational goals outside of the classroom, because there's more to you than a textbook and a test, and a grade in the class. And so we want to know, what did you do with your time? And, some people, during this second year, maybe they aren't quite sure that this is what they want to do. So they decided to take the time to do a little bit more shadowing or, research into the career field, so that they know definitely that this is what they want. But if you don't use the time effectively, the time can go away. You don't get it back.
Right. And as a sophomore, you're essentially only about a year and a half away from the application opening. Definitely. And so it's really, prime time to hit the ground running and make sure that you have those experiences, so that when the admissions committees are looking at your application, they see that commitment over a period of time and kind of growing and being more focused.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right.
So that's the key, is staying focused on the journey, not to get distracted by outside influences, because none of that is going to get you to where you want to go. You have to prioritize what's going to be most important for how you spend your time.
Yeah. Huge piece, great piece of advice right there. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, so let's dig into this looking ahead section. Your sophomore year is really your kind of structuring and building up for the future year. So how do we start that?
Well, certainly you want to look at the classes you're taking, and that is important, because that's going to determine what your schedule is going to be like. And so you're going to want to even look past that in terms of opportunities that you can take in another semester, courses, that you need to probably plan if they only offer it in the spring. So you need to try to work through that first. I think that's the most important thing. Your academics does come first. However, you've got some other things that you need to do. Shadowing is probably a huge piece that we try to build into the sophomore year. So getting out there and pounding the pavement and finding opportunities for you to shadow. You're going to want to do those in the community as well. You can go abroad and even do some experiences. So you've got to be able to plan way ahead, way in advance, so that when the time comes, you can just go right into that opportunity in the summertime. And, it's not only time for you to do some shadowing, but I think it's an awesome time for you to look at some outside experiences that'll help your personal skills, in areas where maybe I'm not as comfortable in group settings. But you decided that you want to become a resident assistant, and, they want to put you through some leadership training because you're going to, lead your floor in certain activities, in the residential community. And so you go through in your summertime preparing for that, and learning learning some leadership skills outside of what you would have even thought you had, and so building up that I would say that arsenal, is something that you'll want to do in your summertime. So, we want to go after the big experiences, but developing yourself as an individual inside is so important. It starts to me in the second year because of the point that you're at in your journey. It's now time to kind of put some things on paper. It's time for us to nail down, things that we appreciate more, that we value more, things that we are looking to accomplish in this time frame, because college is so important. Time in your life to get to know who you are and what you stand for. And so this is the time to be able to diversify yourself amongst other applicants, is when you can begin that journey.
That's an amazing point, and I think it really resounds with our previous episode where we were talking about starting a journal and keeping track of all your experiences and reflecting on these experiences to make sure that you derive meaning from them. And a great place to do that is actually to familiarize yourself with the core competencies. And I'm getting on the soapbox again because it's really important that the medical schools have actually defined a set of core competencies that they expect out of applicants. And so as a sophomore, why don't you take a look at those core competencies and see where you have your strengths and you have opportunities for growth. So, for example, say you don't have an experience with resilience yet, but you can go out and explore, shadowing experience where you do have to be resilient. You're dealing with people day in, day out, but you also have to be able to kind of jump back in and do your classwork or go back into a research setting, or teamwork, or perhaps you might run into a situation where you realize, hey, maybe I should learn a foreign language to be able to help people in that capacity, in addition to medicine. So it really just comes down to knowing where you want to be and reflecting on where you are at the moment and figuring out where the discrepancies are and where those opportunities for growth are.
Definitely. And going back to classroom or coursework, tracking your coursework, I think that it's important, too, that you look at your last semesters and actually planning out what courses you're going to take, and when you can factor in taking in studying for the MCAT and taking the MCAT, where you're going to be able to have a little wiggle room so that you can work on your application, your essays for your application, because you need to carve out that time. And I guess that's where one of my other points I wanted to make to students in this period is that they need to learn how to protect their schedule.
Yes.
So you have to be able to know I need this amount of time to be able to be successful for the next level. I hear it from medical students now. It doesn't stop when, once you get into medical school, you're going to just continue to build on protecting your schedule.
Yeah.
And if you learn this skill now, you'll be the better off. You'll be able to determine right when someone asks you something, no, I can't do that. I have X, Y, and Z to take care of. So, yeah, you have to learn how to protect their schedule.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah. I do want to point out that if you are a dental or a veterinary applicant, you want to be especially careful with your course load because those two actually require that you be enrolled in coursework almost up until the point of matriculation. And you want to be really closely teamed up with your health professions advisor in planning out your coursework so that you don't run out of courses to take at your university, especially if you attend a smaller university. They might not have too many sciences beyond the core prerequisites. And so you want to make sure to plan out your time accordingly and be able to maximize the resources that are available to you.
Definitely. Definitely.
Well, you also mentioned preparing for the MCAT briefly, but how can someone in their second year, sophomore year, prepare for their MCAT? And I'm sure a lot of these will also apply to preparing for the DAT and the GRE.
Well, definitely, one of the notes here says organizing your class notes. And so you need to lay a foundation for, okay, what was the information that we covered this year? And pairing that up with the information or topics that you may see on the MCAT. So you're going to want to take that inventory so that you have an idea of what it is maybe I don't know now and I need to concentrate more on. You want to be able to spend this time effectively doing that because in the third year, you're not going to have as much time to really organize that. So definitely just pairing up what all you've covered so far with some of the topics that will be covered in the MCAT. And if there's some areas that you need some additional enrichment with, then you spend the time trying to find the resources you need to be able to do that.
Yeah, and LeTanya, you and I have both experienced with students who jump into their MCAT preparation and they don't quite have the foundation ready to get into that level of sciences. So not only are you doing MCAT prep, but you're kind of doing some remedial work to try to get you up to speed to be able to do the MCAT prep.
Right.
And so that sophomore year is really key in making sure that you familiarize yourself with those test topics that are covered. The AAMC does an amazing job of coming up with that. All the concepts are covered in each of the sections of the MCAT, and the DAT does something very similar, and there are so many resources for the GRE out there to help you, improve your score and know what you're facing, and then kind of take it back one step so that you are aligning your coursework with where you need to be to earn the score that you want. Yeah.
And this is where it's important that you organize this information. Organize, all of the test topics and what you've covered and what you still need, because you may find that I need to take a year off so that I can complete this information and be prepared for the MCAT. Is it okay to do that? Yes. The MCAT is just that important that you need to be able to be successful on that exam. And so you don't want to rush the process if you have not mastered the concepts.
Exactly. All right. Well, our biggest point, and it could be a huge hurdle for a lot of students out there, is actually kind of sitting down and thinking about all of the costs that are going to come when it comes to the cost of admission to professional school.
Definitely. And so, you don't want to be that person that is, begging for money from other people to try to get through the process, because it can be undaunting. One of the things I think you should do is sit down and take a look at the different costs. We already know that most of the schools are going to go through the TMDSAS service, and so there's one fee.
The best schools do.
Yes, and so you want to take a look at how much is this going to cost me? What is all involved in it? So we've got a realistic picture of some fees that you may, or some costs that you may incur while you're going through the admissions cycle. So there's the application fee, Casper. Now that we're getting involved in that, schools may have fees for their secondary applications, and test prep is huge. It can be a huge cost, especially if you're going to go through several different test review prep courses. So you're going to want to factor in the cost of materials, taking the exam itself, and what that's going to cost. If there's any travel involved in any of that, that's, if you have gas and hotel lodging, things like that. And then, of course, the interview itself. You are going to incur some costs going to several schools. But one thing, that I had thought of, too, that we don't think of all the time is, your attire for interviews as well. And so this is a good time to just plan all of that out, to see it on paper, to see, okay, realistically, what is it going to cost me? And you have to think of everything, down to if mom and dad have to bring you, and if there's an extra cost in meals or parking. Those are different things that sometimes we don't factor in. And so just to have a realistic picture of what it's going to be like, you should map that out.
Yeah, and we do have a resource available on the TMDSAS website where we kind of went through a few of the actual application fees, like MCAT prep, taking the exams, and all the secondaries, and kind of different amounts for you to consider. And we have those available on the TMDSAS website, and we have them linked in the description of this episode. And those, we developed one of those for medical, one for dental, and one for veterinary applicants. And we go beyond just the TMDSAS application. We explore, how much does an ADSAS application cost, or an MCAS application, a COMAS. And
awesome.
So we wanted to make sure that it would give students a starting point and starting to budget in anticipation of the application. One of the points that somebody had brought up that I thought was pretty interesting is that, and especially as a sophomore in college, you can, birthdays come around, and sometimes you have that uncle who's your favorite uncle, and they like giving you something cool. You might just ask them, hey, can I just get a gift card to whatever store you'd like to purchase your clothes at for your interview attire. Or maybe, Southwest points to fly around the state. Be a little bit more strategic with kind of thinking outside the box.
Definitely.
Not everything has to come from financial aid, especially those of you who've already maxed out your financial aid. There are a lot of opportunities for you to be able to cover these costs without completely burdening yourself.
Definitely. Like a wishing well.
Yeah.
Having something like that where individuals want to congratulate you in some kind of way or honor you in some way. Yeah. Well, instead of giving you gifts, they can give you gift cards, or they can give you cash, that you can put into a savings. You want to develop that savings account. You want to be able to put something aside for this time. And you don't really know how much it's going to cost, but you don't want to be caught off guard and not be prepared for that expense. It can actually hurt you because if you're waiting on finances, the clock is still ticking. So during that application process, it's a rolling process. So you want to be sure you're not missing a beat or are going to be put back because of something that you didn't plan for.
Yeah, for example, the MCAT, the later you wait to register for the MCAT, the more expensive it gets.
Definitely.
And then also, you could have a really quick turnaround if somebody cancels their interview and you're the next person on the list. You could get a call to show up at UTMB next week.
Definitely.
So,
it has happened.
Yeah.
It has happened.
And so you want to be ready and say, okay, I'll be there, rather than, I get my check next week and then got to wait it out. You're not going to be telling the school that. If they call you to be interviewed, you want to be ready to jump up and take that spot.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So that would be the key thing to do, and like I said, attire. You just never know what kind of things go into that. You want to put your best foot forward. So not going out and buying the most expensive suit or slacks and top or whatnot. We're not saying to do that, but you want to be prepared to present yourself well. You know, we have at least 60 students that come for interview day, and all of them are in suits. You know, and so, you know, it's just something that if you've not worn a suit before, you don't want to wait till the last minute to try to figure out. So take the time to build your wardrobe, or to just be thinking about what it's going to take to make yourself, you know, suitable for an interview day.
Yeah. There are so many ways to stand out, and your clothing should not be one of them. All right. Well, thank you so much for covering all these amazing points. Is there anything else that you'd like to touch on before we conclude this episode?
Well, two things. I noticed, I did say before that learn to protect your schedule, but be selfish with your time, because this time in your life is so important. The journey is so important. You are discovering new things about yourself that you never knew you were or who you were. You know, start developing yourself based on what you value. And so you want to select those opportunities that you can take advantage of that are going to propel you to be a better you. And so it's the time of stretching. You know, this is the time where you're going to fail. You may fail. And this is a time for you to grow. And so in that process of failing, you will grow and you will become a better person. And so you need to be prepared for that, because that can very well come to you. And you want to be able to show that you are resilient, you know, in those times when times got tough. And so it does get tougher, and the challenges don't stop. And so you want to be able to have a safe ground, if you will, to be able to do that. In the second year, to me, is that time. You're still defining yourself and finding your way, and so this is that time to be able to do that. The other thing that I wanted to say is don't get easily distracted by different things that go on campus or in other people's lives. You know, your goal is to get into a professional program, and so that's what your purpose is. So you take the time to have fun, but don't allow other things outside of what you have planned for yourself to do to take you away from that. Because just one mishap can cause a wrinkle in the process. It could cost you this very career path, and so you don't want to do that.
Yeah, excellent points.
But thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you so much for the time and all this amazing info. I mean, we could easily make fortune cookies out of every line that you've made. And, you know, they're just amazing insights. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Well, good luck to everyone, and be seeing you around.
The TMDSAS podcast is a proud affiliate of the MedEd Media Network, your source for informational, inspirational, and motivational pre-med podcasts and more. Check us out at mededmedia.com. If you have any questions or comments about this episode of the podcast, join the conversation in our online communities at Facebook as the TMDSAS Hub, which is open to all applicants, current and future, and the TMDSAS Non-Traditional Applicants group, which is open to all students that identify as non-traditional. Follow the link in the description of this episode to join the groups. On behalf of everyone here at TMDSAS, we'd like to wish all applicants, current and future, all the best of luck on your journey. That's all for this episode. We'll talk to you later.